From time to time, even the strongest and the bravest doubt themselves. And in times like that, we need a hero we can look up to for mental strength, to learn resilience and discipline from, to inspire and motivate ourselves. Today's guest is such a hero. Daniel MacQueen was leading a healthy, active, normal life when, after a simple appointment with an optometrist, resulted in an emergency brain surgery a few hours later. With no map to guide him on the grueling path to recovery, Dan had to rely on his grit, perseverance, and resilience to relearn everything he once knew: how to walk, talk, and even smile. Dan has survived 2 emergency brain surgeries, weeks in coma, and months in rehab hospital. Driven by nothing but a positive mindset, Dan battled through excruciating rehab exercises to rebuild his life and reclaim his life. He now teaches others the tools and strategies to help them be the best version of themselves so that they can be #better than yesterday and achieve their goals one step at a time. This is the episode for you if you want to learn how to change your perspective to activate your resilience. Hello, Dan. How are you doing? Thank you for joining the show.
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing today?
Very good. Very good. Thank you. I am super excited to talk to you for many reasons. Number one, I've read your profile, I've seen some of your content online. To say that you are inspiring is very insulting because your life and the adversities you have faced and who you have become today is nothing but awe inspiring. And I can't wait to have this conversation with you because I know it's going to be so valuable to my listeners.
Thank you for saying that. It's an honor to be on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to jump right in. You're 28 years old, you're living a healthy lifestyle, you go for a regular optometrist appointment, they send you to the hospital, and very soon you find out there is some type of a brain hemorrhage happening. What's going on through your mind at that moment?
I've been having these headaches for a few weeks, so I was quite perplexed with what was causing them. And I've been to A&E, which was accident emergency in the UK, and they thought it was vertigo. They sent me home. But I was in the tube one day. The tube started to zigzag around London, and the vision started to get spotty and starry and started to fade to black. It was a race to see who could get to Notting Station first. I arrived at the station, stepped onto the platform, and the lights went out. I couldn't see. I was blind. So I want to ask you, Mark, able-sighted person your whole life, all of a sudden you're thrust into the depths of blindness in a tube station in London. What would your first thought be? What would you think and react? How would you respond?
I would be petrified. I would be scared because of the physical limitations I have, but also I would be worried what's happening to me.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did, Mark. I did absolutely nothing. I thought, and I stood there and I thought some more. After the longest 3 minutes of my life, my vision came back, and I carried on with my day. But the next day, I went back to A&E and got them to check it again. Told them what had happened. There's something wrong here. I was blind, and on tube stations is not normal. They sent me home, and that was vertigo. But they told me on the way out, I came out, I was checked in an optometrist, right? I'm in the optometrist chair. He's midway through the exam. He stops the exam, which is not casual. Excuses himself from the room, and he comes back a few minutes later with a sealed envelope, which he hands to me. He tells me to go directly to Moorfields Hospital, which I did. Mark, it's hell a lie. I stopped at home first to grab a Jack Reacher book by Lee Child, the phone charger, and bite to eat. Then I went to Moorfields Hospital, handed them that sealed envelope. They ran the same test there, then escalated me to Charing Cross Hospital. It turns out I had a dangerous buildup of pressure in my brain caused from a non-cancerous cyst in my pineal gland. It was preventing the fluid from my brain it was preventing the fluid from my brain draining as it normally would. So I was escalated up to Charing Cross Hospital, I had to have brain surgery tomorrow. My life was going to change altogether. So after a frantic back and forth with folks in Canada, the last text message my mom received reads, I'll see you soon, Mom. Think I'll have a new haircut next time I see you. Mom's in the air flying to London on June 21st, 2014 on the operating table. Something goes horribly wrong and I have a massive bleed in the brain, a brain hemorrhage. Then the cyst burst when they operated. So Mom lands and finds I'm in critical condition. I was in a coma for 4 weeks. I wasn't out of consciousness for months after this. Things were dead, touch and go. When all was said and done, I was learning how to walk, talk, and smile again. But the initial, them telling me that I was having the brain surgery was like, I was relieved to know we knew what it was, but I was also a bit scared of brain surgery, right? This is a bit of a scary operation to have. Yeah. And lo and behold, it goes sideways on me on the operating table. And I was in a bad way off the hop. Mom lands and finds me in a coma. Worst, not the worst case scenario, obviously, but pretty damn bad. And I wake up 4 weeks later. My mom, dad, and brother on the bed. I'm trying to talk, but I can't talk because my tracheotomy had fried my vocal cords. They weren't sure to be able to talk yet. And I pointed at my brother and go, you, give me a pen and paper. Write down, get me the hell out of here. And I showed it to him. He goes, "What do you want me to do, bud? You're hooked up to 13 hoses. You can't walk. My leg had atrophied in a coma. I couldn't walk." So we didn't do anything about that. But like this went 0 to 60 for me in like an instant, Mark. And I wake up being told all this stuff had happened to me because I was in a coma. I didn't know. And now your reality is this. You've had a brain hemorrhage. You're in the hospital. You're not going back to work for a while. And life got pretty small, pretty quick, and pretty focused pretty fast. But this is devastating. This was a healthy, active guy, no ill issues before this, to clinging to life in the ICU. It was wild, man. It was wild.
At that moment, what is the predominant feeling in your heart? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it confusion as to why this is happening to me?
All of the above. Angry with why it happened, why this happened to me. In a tempered way. I don't want to say I was an angry guy, but like I was obviously not pleased with the situation. But I never spoke poorly of the brain hemorrhage. I said, I wish this didn't happen. It was the worst I ever said. But I was never like, woe is me, Eeyore about it, because I knew that was a losing mindset. The brain hemorrage didn't kill me. Came pretty close. I had to use ice blankets above and below me to keep my core temperature down in the coma. So the violent shivering. This lasted on and off for about a week. I found this is horrible to watch. I had a breathing tube put into my nose, and I'd rip it out in the coma. To put mitts on my hands. I couldn't rip it out. And I'd work on these mitts for days. And then I'd get the breathing tube out for the 5 minutes of repeat. And they put it back down when they have to extra me before they're feeding me food because maybe my lungs don't my stomach. So anger, confusion, frustration. But I quickly realized that it was what I thought about this that mattered more than what it was, because the brain hemorrhage didn't kill me. And if I thought it would be bad, then it'd be bad. If I thought it was like an opportunity to get back to things, and I was pretty determined to do that. So I was very focused and very driven to get going off the hop. But it was a wild vibe, man. It was a wild vibe.
What's really intriguing to me is the fact that even while this was almost happening live, as you're still connected to the tubes, as you're still laying on the bed, you already had the mindset that this is not to harbor anger and resentment is in my mind is a losing mindset. Because I have talked to people who have gone through some sort of similar experiences, and this level of understanding and acceptance comes much later on. So, what kind of a person were you before this happened? Because that might have something to do with you being in that mindset right at the moment, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm always a bit scrappy, a bit undersized, but dated girls well outside my league, and always proving myself that I'm better, good enough to be here. Proving you wrong was put on my vibe, and I think that I really embraced that off the hop. The way the nurse got me talking again, we took down to the park. She sat me in front of these kids playing football across the park, Mark, and she goes, "Dan, those kids across the park, they don't think you're good enough to talk. They don't think you're good enough to talk, Dan." And I found out pretty quickly that that's a big trigger for me. And I yelled some profanities across the park. I'll spare you and your listeners, but I found out pretty quick what motivated me, and I hammered that. Proving you wrong was part of my vibes. You think it's gonna take me down? No. Like I really relish the fight, and I realized that if I let it destroy me, it would. But if I didn't let it destroy me, then I can make it through this. And I battled tooth and nail, clawed my way through this. I didn't think I'd make it out of this, Mark. There were times I was hanging out with my fingernails, and I wasn't sure I'd be able to hold on, but I wasn't going to let go. I wasn't going to let this thing win on my account. I was going to let it take me. If it's going to take me, then take me, but it's not going to let go. And eventually the dawn broke, and I eventually stabilized and got to rehab and started building myself back up. But it was leveling, man. Like pretty smart, pretty active, worked in tech, pretty vibrant social life, and all of a sudden you're dejected to a hospital bed. You can't walk, talk, or smile. And it became pretty quick. The first night in the hospital, Mark, that I was conscious, the first night in the hospital was horrifying, was haunting. The ICU is a pretty dark place at night. The doctors are there during the day, your family's during the day. It's like a happy, we're building you back up and it's gonna be great. But in the nighttime, the night staff's on board, all the family goes away, the doctors go away, and the wails of the patients are haunting because their lives are in shambles. And it was super dark to deal with. And the first few nights, I didn't get a week of sleep because I was just hearing the wails and the moans and screaming out the walls. But I realized, look, dude, you got to choose how you go through this now. If it's the worst thing in the world, it's the worst thing in the world. But if you can position it like you can navigate through this, then you can shift your mindset and take this on board, because it's a wild experience. I hope to never go back to the ICU again, but like I embraced and soaked it in. I want to never be back here again. And it was harder than all hell. I don't know how I made that shift, but I think I had that dog that fighting me from when I was a younger guy, always proving that I was good enough to be there on sports teams with girls. I always relished that underdog mentality, and I figured this is no different. Yeah. But it's what you think about that matters.
There's an old saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. That is always that's winning. I'm curious. So the nurse that took you to the park, do you think she recognized something in you that it would be motivating for you to have her egg you on, like these kids never think that they can talk? Or do you think that's something standard that they do?
No, my dad and mom built like a little profile of me in the ICU when I was a blob in the ICU, not in a coma, just to show that I'm a real person. Dan loves sports, works in tech, travels through lived in Sweden, lived in for a number of years. This is his girlfriend here. They made
Yeah.
me a person.
Yeah.
And the idea was like, and they said they played lots of sports growing up. So I think she read that file and was like, you know what, this can work for this guy. He's a competitive dude. And she took a risk with that because that could have backfired on her. But like that galvanized me, and I just took off running the races. Like, I'm not going to be here. Let me show you what's up, brother. Yelling across the park, like, how dare you talk to me this way? Mind you, that was not a clear sentence. It was like a cacophony of words and jumbles and swears and gestures, but it really crystallized how I can motivate myself. Is like proving you wrong is part of this vibe.
Yeah.
And that's a toxic place to have motivation come from the long term, but like for short periods of time. Hey man, ride that wave that comes, hammer that wave. And she did.
Yeah. Now, obviously, this is a very difficult question to answer, but do you think that if she hadn't used that route, there would be some other route for you to get that motivation?
Honestly, I think I would have come back to that pretty quick. Like the proving you wrong is a big part of my vibe. And if she didn't hammer it, I would have distilled it out later on. But like now I've transitioned my motivation from proving you wrong to now service, lending a hand. Your success is my success. When motivation comes from this dark place of proving you wrong, it works well for a short period of time. But once I beat you, or once I win, the motivation disappears like it was never there. It vanishes, like evaporates. But when my success is based on your success, motivation can last for a lifetime. Service. So I'm now trying to transition motivation more from that holistic place than the dark place it came from. But don't try to judge the motivation that comes. Ride the wave that comes and hammer it, man. Because the next wave may not be for a while. It's like riding a wave on the surfboard. You know, you can wait for the waves that come. I don't like this wave. Okay, well, there may not be a wave for another while. So you got to pace yourself and base it off that. But take the wave that rides now and hammer it, man. Don't judge the wave. Take the wave that rides.
Yeah, thousands of lessons to be learned here. The two that strike the most is number one, when somebody truly knows the little things that make you work, they can utilize that to help you. The profile that your parents created, the nurse was smart enough to see through that, understand you, and be able to push certain buttons to able to get you to react a certain way. And the rest is history. So sometimes all it takes in life is somebody who truly cares about you and who knows you a little bit to help you get to the next level. And the second thing is, don't judge yourself. If the motivation comes from a place of something dark, that's okay. It's temporary. It gets you moving in the beginning, and then we can change the type of motivation, the source of it, and continue the path. So I love that.
Exactly.
So what was life after? Now you have started to speak, you're moving around, you're functional, you're starting to walk again. Where are you now? What is life like?
Walking took a while to get back to walking, so I want to touch on this for a little bit. I had to wear a splint on my left leg. Splint's like a cast to rub your leg muscle to gently tease it out. That's the bag goods I was sold. My leg had atrophied in the coma, that's why I needed the splint to stretch it out. They used a Botox injection in my leg to loosen up the muscles. With the needle was about this big. Felt like about this big, probably about this big. But I had to wear a splint on my leg. And the first thing I wore the splint through the night. No issues, no stress. This will be easy. I thought this will be easy. Boy, was I wrong. The second night after 20 minutes, it was painful. After 30 minutes, it was dreadful. After 40 minutes, it was unbearable. I buzzed the nurse, took the splint off my leg. But I tell the nurses, tomorrow we're doing this for an hour. I'm a walker. I can handle the pain. Big talk. So the third night, they're wrapping my leg. Tie it off with the ankle. Give me the clicker, the nurse call button. Go patrol the Wolfson ward. Now, the Wolfson ward was an L shape, so short on this side, long on this side. Short on this side, long on this side. Leave me in a hospital room that smells like only a hospital room can smell. Sanitized, sterilized. It's clean, but you're wondering what sort of atrocities have been committed under the guise of that lemony zestness. After 10 minutes, the leg's painful. The leg's dreadful. After 30 minutes, the leg's unbearable. I clicker back and forth, trying to distract myself from the pain. Now you can see I've got an eye patch on now, which is covering up for double vision, which I have now, holdover from the brain injury, which means I see two of this clicker going back and forth. As the pain ratchets up, my throws get more enthusiastic. Till eventually, inevitably, I drop the clicker and it lands on the hard linoleum floor 3.5 feet down the ground. Sugar, I say. Mark, I didn't say sugar. I look over the edge of the bed. I can see the clicker on the linoleum floor on the ground. If I can get that clear, I can stop this pain. I can end this monstrosity. Only problem was a fall from that height might break my arm. In fact, I figured about a 50-50 chance you'd break my arm. Coin flip. Not the best odds. I changed tack. I'm trying to undo the splint, but it's tied off at the ankle, not at the hip. I can't reach that far down. I'm not that flexible. Help. Help, I yell. The ward of the wolves is in an L shape, right? Short on this side. Long on this side, short on this side, long on this side. They're the far end of the ward. They can't hear me on for help. I decided to flip the coin, drop down and grab the clicker. Even if I break my arm, the splint's got to come on my leg. That's number 1, 2, and 3. Lower myself off the edge of the bed, and I crash down in a heap. The arm mark, and I hammered the clicker, expecting the nurses to come bursting into the room to come to rescue. They kind of stroll in 5 minutes later. What are you doing on the floor, love? First of all, I say, that's a fantastic British accent you have there. Where are you from again? I didn't say that either, Mark. Let's get this.
I was going to say, no way you said that.
It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to the matters, right? The reason why I told you this story is I learned 3 lessons from this experience. First lesson being, let's not pass the click back and forth. That's a bad idea. Second lesson was tie the splint off of the hip, not the ankle, that way we can untie this shit that's happening go forwards. And the third and probably most profound lesson I learned was, let's always be solutions oriented from this moment forwards. When things go sideways in life, how do you resolve your issue? How do you fix your issue off the hop? then backtrack and figure out why it happened. But off the hop, how do you resolve your issue? With the help of the splinter, start walking the hell was the Wilson on the Zimmer frame, which is a 4-post walker you can lurch forward on. Then I moved up to the Ferrari. A Ferrari was a 4-wheeled walker in Ferrari racing red. I could zip around and I was going fast. Grease lightning. I'm gonna walk, I'm not going that fast. Then I moved up to naked walk. Know what's a naked walk, you may ask? I'm walking without spoiler aids. But the reaction I got from people when I told them I went for a naked walk the other day was so profound I kept the term. Then I walked in Tooting Broadway. So Mark, forgive me, I asked you on that pre-call, have you been to London before?
Yes, I have.
Have you been to Tooting Broadway?
Yes, I have.
All right, perfect. Let me set the scene for your listeners, just in case you're unfamiliar. Tooting Broadway is an area in South London, an area they call up and coming. Think loud sirens, drugs, gangs. It's dirty, it's hectic, and boys are busy. I'm walking with a cane, I'm walking with an eye patch. After 4 months in a wheelchair, I'm really Bambi on ice. I turn the corner to walk on the high street for the first time, immediately get slammed into by someone. Stagger back a few feet. Someone scurries past me on the right-hand side. I thought I was done with the rats. Someone had been stabbed on the sidewalk over here. I'm thinking this is a pretty wild place to learn how to walk. After a few days of this, I was thinking this is the worst place to learn how to walk in the world. Can't they see I'm trying to walk here? Can't they see I'm trying here? And then one day my perspective shifted. Maybe it's the worst place to learn how to walk in the world. No, maybe it's the best. If I can walk here, I can walk anywhere. The Tooting Broadway didn't change, right, Mark? I went from the worst to the best in my mind, and my mood reflected that. What are you looking at in your life you're convinced is the worst? Convinced is absolutely the worst. Hey, maybe it is. Maybe you can find a way to turn down the suck a little bit, shift that perspective a little bit. Iron Mike Tyson famously said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Now your punch may not be a brain hemorrhage, right? Facts. Will be a job loss, a breakup, a diagnosis for you or a loved one. You will take that punch in the mouth. How do you respond? I'm offering a compass, not a map, but a compass. It always points towards true north. We'll look at things like mindset, perspective, and hacks. Hacks that allow you and your team to be better than yesterday and tomorrow. My name's Dan MacQueen, and the reason why I told you that story about learning to walk in Tooting Broadway is when you change the way you look at the world, you get changes. And you don't need a brain hemorrhage to understand that. So I shared that story with you, Mark, just so you can see the perspective shift that I did myself to make this the worst and the best. And how it was a mental game more than a physical game. I look forward to those walks. The bump into me, crash past me, good. Bring it on. You're making me better with this. The strike made me better. I craved it. I look forward to it. Before, I was so jaded by this, so frustrated because can't they see I'm trying to walk here? But that subtle mindset shift made all the difference because the game didn't change, right? But the way I looked at the game changed entirely. And that made all the difference. But then I moved up to walking with a cane and the stick, and London's an abrasive spot to learn how to walk, right? It's quite hectic, quite visceral, quite a lot of output and input coming in your way. With the brain, it's all magnified by 10 because the sounds, the busyness is quite jarring and dejective, and it's quite frustrating with this, but like that made all the difference, man. So that's a subtle story about learning to walk in Tooting Broadway.
Fascinating. Let me ask you this question, and I'm being honest. How did you escape the lure of playing the victim card? Why, if I'm playing devil's advocate, right? It's so much work to have a mindset shift, to look at these crazy, inconsiderate people who are just running into you when it's absolutely clear that you are struggling to walk. And now you have to have this mindset shift, and I have to think about it positively. And now you have to think about, yeah, this is the greatest place for me to train because if I can walk here, I can walk anywhere. It's so much easier to just play the victim card. You yourself right now are on a journey in life where you're educating others and empowering others, and it's hard work. Why? Why do that?
Yes, that question, but they say the odds of you being a human being are 400 trillion to 1, which means you're more likely to win the lottery like a million times you're going to have a life in the first place. I was lucky enough to get a life with this hand. This blip was my DNA, right? Would have happened no matter what. I couldn't have avoided this. I'm not going to whinge about the hand I was given. I'm going to play the hand I've got. So how I could fight, this is my at-bat, man. I'm not going to let it slide. I'm going to fight for this. I'm not going to set up for the life I have. I'm going to chase the life I want. Everything now, like I've got issues of double vision. I'm more impulsive. I'm more direct. I need more rest and recovery than I did in the past. But I get to do this. I get to do this. If I didn't have this issue, I wouldn't be me. Dan MacQueen lives because I had this blip in my radar, in my DNA. So I made that perspective shift pretty early on and never looked back. Everything I face now is, I guess we're leveling up. I've got a cyst on my eye, left eye. I've got it removed this week from the doctor. They're gonna numb my eye and then slice the cyst. And it sounds really lovely because needles in my eyes, literally needles in my eyes. But I get to do this. I get to do this, and I can't whinge about what had happened. Wishing something didn't happen is not an adequate way to resolve it. Acceptance, now this is a big part of this, Mark. Acceptance is key. If you don't accept it, you can't take steps to improve it. If you whinge about it for 6 months and then you decide the next day I'm gonna take a step forward, you've lost 6 months about whinging about it. It's not fair, sure, but it's not personal. Don't think that you're that special that it's personal to you. It's shit happens in life, man. So I just made that choice very early on. I've never looked back. And I can't look back because my mindset is calcified around this image of I get to do this. Everything in life, I get to do this. I'm leveling up now. The challenge, good, bring it on. I love that fight, that underdog, the fight, the size of the fight in the dog, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you don't have that. And how you build that up is a question that comes to get asked. You can foster resilience, right? By keeping promises to yourself, building a stack of proof that says you do what you say you're going to do. How do you do this? Great question mark. I go swimming 3 times a week in the pool. I get in the pool, I set an intention for laps I want to do. At the start, this was like 5, 10 laps tops. Now it's 40, 50, 60, 70. If I make an intention, I owe those laps. It's a promise I made to myself. Save one exception. If there's a backstroker in my lane, I will bounce out of that lane so damn quick you will make your head spin. Those bloody pesky backstrokers, don't get me started on that. Meditation. I meditate for 20 minutes every morning now. But I start with 2 minutes. Then the next week 4, then the next week 6, then 8, then 10, then 12, then 14, then 16, then 18, then 20, 22, 24, 26. I ratcheted this up until now that my new standard is I just do this. But I've got that undeniable stack of proof that I meditate for the past 7, 8 years that I know I can do this. I cold shower in the morning. Vancouver, Canada is not the coldest place in the world for sure, but it's not warm. First 3 times I hated this. It was stressful. It was abrasive. It was grimy. It was cold, uncomfortable. But now I crave that hit of dopamine. I need that struggle. If you go into struggle willingly in life, you can handle it much better when you get thrown a curveball, right? So prove that you say you do what you say you do by keeping promises to yourself. I know for a fact now that if I say I do something, I'm going to do it. I was on a cruise off-piste here. I was on a cruise last month for my mom's 70th birthday. First night on the cruise, we had a big night. Lots of drinks. Overserved, no doubt. Overserved, no doubt. Big dance party. There was a yoga class the next morning. I was going to go to it with my mom. She goes, Dan, I'm not going to go to yoga tomorrow. I'm like, cool, I'm going to go. Because I said I was going to go. And I went, and it was horrible. I was hungover, and it was just not worth going. But I said I was going to do it, so I owed that. I owed that to myself. It's on my soul. So I've got this mindset now where I do what I say I'm going to do. And that can help you navigate through this difficult stuff. That's a bit of a rant for you.
Absolutely. Today's July 30th, and I was literally talking to a client before talking to you, and she will know who I'm talking about. And this was exactly the same topic that we're talking about, which is that there's an incredible psychological advantage to committing yourself to doing something and following through it. The tactical advantage, tactically speaking, that hungover yoga session that you did for 30 or 45 minutes probably did little to nothing to your actual physical health. But the fact that you woke up and the fact that you went to it, despite feeling a certain way, because of no other reason other than the fact that you had made a commitment to yourself, and the weight of that is worth in gold. So I love that.
It's huge.
So let's talk about the victim mindset again and overcoming that, building up that resilience. But before we get into that, what do you think in an alternate universe, in being 100% honest to yourself and to the listeners, in an alternate universe which this hadn't happened and you were just in London and the lights went out and then came back on, you went to the optometrist, it was something simple, none of this happened, what would your life look like?
That's a good question. It would have been quite different than this. Had to go from the time in London, like working in tech, probably would have scaled that career quite faster than I was now because I was working with big clients before I went in the break, and then I came back, I had to start at the bottom and work my way back up. It would have been a lot different. But this experience, as devastating and hard as it was to navigate through, it's just forged me into the person I am today. Iron sharpens iron, right? And I'm so grateful that it happened because I'm me because of this now. I've got this mindset of steel, of just rock solid mindset that I do what I say I'm going to do. And I wasn't a bad guy before this happened, Mark, but I was a bit loose with some stuff and I could have been better. Now I wake up every day with intention and motivation and focus and drive and commitment. And I'm a better person now because of this. Everything is better in my life because of this now. I've got some massive dejectors, massive outliers. Like television's still there, but I wouldn't take it back now knowing the lessons I've learned about myself, which is easy to say because you can't undo it, right? There's no magic button we can do this, but I wouldn't take it back. The lessons I've learned have been so valuable. I love who I am today fully and completely. It's made me who I am today. I relish the struggle, the strafe, the grind, like that fight. It's forged me into who I am today. And I think you can't wish it was different. You got to accept how it is and navigate the space. Only by understanding the parameters and the limitations can you improve it. You got to challenge those notions, right? Like perfect example of challenge. Like I used to shower with this bath mat in the shower because I was a bit unstable with my feet. Bought this expensive bath mat in London. It was like 100 pounds, whatever. I told my folks one day I'm not using the bloody bath mat anymore because I hang it up every day when I went to work and hang on the wall. Every morning I'd see that and I know that I'm not good enough to stand in the shower. And I resented this thing beyond all belief. And then one day I decided I'm not using the bath mat. And guess what? I was fine. So I ditched the bath mat. Used to walk with a stick, a cane. Went back to Vancouver one time, forgot the stick, and I managed just fine to retire the cane. Used to wear a contact lens, and my left eye had blocked the vision. Went to South Africa on safari. Thought dust, dirt would get in my eyes, so I left the contact lens at home and I retired the contact lens. Only by challenging and risking failure can you test the limitations of your new parameters. And can you advance yourself? Now, I'm not doing this in a stupid way where you can get hurt or hurt others, but like, you got to challenge yourself to push the boundaries, to know where failure is so you know where you can play. And this is something you challenge on a regular basis. Every day, every week, every month, reevaluate. Can I push through this? Do I need the Batman? No. Do I need the cane? No. Do I need the eye patch? No. But by pushing the bounds, can you get back to where you want to go? And risking failures, I fail a lot now, Mark, all the time. But those failures are starting to reduce down a lot less. They used to be missed by country mile. Now they're missing by little bits here and there, and I'm hitting sometimes. But only by chasing down what's possible am I getting this place. You got to challenge yourself to push through this. You got to challenge yourself to step up and get through this. Challenge yourself every day to be better than yesterday. It's a mindset that's forged through hours, months, years of struggle and strife. But now my mindset's bulletproof now. What do you mean come at me with? I lost my job last summer, or 2 summers ago, Mark. My brother goes, knowing you down this will be a minor bump in the road. And he's right. Went for a few drinks, decided I'm a keynote speaker tomorrow, which means I need a computer today. Went down and bought a computer that afternoon. It wasn't over the job loss in an afternoon, but I reduced the amount of time to acceptance. And that is the key I want your listeners to take away with this. Accept stuff. Now, acceptance is tough to hear because it's like, well, you know my story, Dan. You're right, I don't know your story, and it's probably very difficult, very strife intensive. But listen to what I'm telling you now. Everything I've been through, acceptance is the biggest takeaway I can give you. If you can accept it, you can improve it. If you can't accept it, you can't improve it because it's not real. You're not working with the parameters. I'm working on a new keynote now, Mark, called AAA Framework. Accept, acknowledge, accept, adapt. Acknowledge. You're going to believe this happened to me. Acknowledge that I had a brain hemorrhage, right? That's the first thing. Accept, I had a brain hemorrhage. And adapt, modify your life to fit your new parameters. I've come with a whole bunch of hacks to help me navigate life now and help me make life a bit easier, to limit my strain and strife. Like I wear a Whoop strap now, which tracks your rest, recovery, and strain. And I swear by this in the morning. I wake up, how did I recover? So today I recovered with a 96% recovery rate, Mark. So guess what? I'm sending it hard in the pool tonight. I'm going to cane it till the cows come home in the pool because I got the bandwidth to do it. But I can't do this if I've got a red recovery or a bad sleep. I got to adapt my parameters because I can't strain myself through this. My battery's not capable of handling that strain. You can bet your ass I'm going hard in the pool tonight, brother.
If I dare say, a lot of times things are not happening to us. I think the way you're looking at it is things are happening for you. Perhaps the version of the person you are today, what you're offering to the world today, through your experience, through your expertise of having overcome these things, it's almost that these unfortunate things happened for you as opposed to you. And I think that's where the real mindset shift is.
You're 100% right with that, Mark.
I love that you bring acceptance as well, because a lot of times we are not honest with ourselves. Unfortunate things happen to us, and we have a tendency to blame circumstances, to blame our luck. But honesty is where it's at. Acknowledging what has happened, accepting truly what has happened, but then having the courage to look past that, forge a path of your own that is uniquely yours. I think that's where the strength lies.
100% right.
Where do you find that focus? Because you're so focused on becoming better next version of yours every single day. Now, someone who's listening to this, who has a goal, who has a dream, who has something they want to accomplish. In today's world, there are so many distractions, right? They come in the form of people, things, social media, whatnot. How do we maintain that focus so that we are not just charged up a minute today and then tomorrow we are cold and just watching TV all day? How do we do that?
Set goals for yourself that are achievable and attainable, and limit the goals so you don't stretch too far outside your comfort zone. Make the goals hittable, winnable. Small hittable wins, and then scale from there. Ratchet it up. That's the new norm now. Hit this goal, ratchet it up, I'm here now. Hit the next goal, ratchet it up, I'm here now. Like I skied last 2 winters ago. A goal I set in the hospital was on the even bars. I grew up skiing, a ski racer, a ski instructor, and the nurses asked me what I wanted to get back to doing. I'm in a wheelchair at this stage, and I go, I want to ski again. And they said, okay. I was in a wheelchair working on the even bars. I couldn't walk. They weren't sure I'd be able to walk unaided for the rest of my life. There's no way that I'd be skiing again, but I said it out loud. They go, okay, sure. Asked when I wanted to make this happen. I said 10 years from the last ski trip was on, 20. So that was a couple seasons ago. Late in the year into March, which is spring conditions, brought the skis in the shop. They get waxed, they get sharpened. They couldn't adjust my bindings. Those were too old to be worked on, they told me. For liability reasons, I couldn't touch them. Not a big deal. The bindings hold your feet to the skis so they break off if they don't, and they can twist your knees pretty bad. Took a stab March 31st, landed on Sun with some boys, Andrew and RJ, with a basic grouse mountain super sky ride that takes you up to the hill. And I remember remember the old hack as a ski racer because I was up the hill 3 times a week. Be the last one on the gondola. That way you can rest your skis and your poles and the doors close behind you. You can go up hands-free and do up your jacket, do up your gear, get your gear wear looking good. We're riding up the gondola right over the first tower, big forwards, big back. Started thinking to myself, what if he doesn't come back? You look like an absolute idiot. Get to the top of the Grouse Mountain, skyride, close your eyes if you don't mind. Feel the nipple cold in your cheeks. We're gonna walk through the station. Clomp. Open the doors into a wall of sunshine. Big inhale. Smell the fresh air, the trees, the snow, the change of environment down the stairs. Clang onto the snow. Crunch. Crunch. It's soft back, don't you know? It's spring. Open your eyes, please. Warmed up with the boys, Andrew and RJ, on a couple hills, and then I ripped it like I never missed a day. I was an instructor for a while, so I knew how to teach skiing. So I recognized this old exercise you do where you pretend the poles in your hands like this. Your upper body's still and your lower body's acting like a duck. And I skied like I never missed a day. The muscle memory is there. I was visualizing this the whole way through. For months, I was visualizing this, like 3 pumps of the pole and 2 left-hand turn again and again. And I skied like I never missed a day, Mark. This is an audacious moonshot goal that I said out loud. There was no way they thought I'd be doing this. And I skied. I didn't think I could do this. This is audacious. But I hit it. How? Because I ratcheted it up. I knew that I was pretty mobile. I was pretty flexible. I started visualizing the skiing in my mind. And I knew that I could do this. Had that moment of question on the gondola ride up, but I navigated through that. I believed in myself that I could navigate this. Goals started early with me, Mark, like in the wheelchair. It took 45 minutes in the wheelchair, then 35, then 30, then 25, then 20, then 15. But it was arduous, difficult, grindy, but I ratcheted these up after weeks and months of trying this. The wheelchair was horrific to get in and out of. It was so difficult. Every bone and muscle in my body ached from doing nothing to now being told, hey, get up, move your abdominal muscles, put yourself in the chair. But just pick small goals you can win. Small with the wheelchair and end up with the skiing, man. And now if I say it out loud, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Big, I'm shooting big because goals are something to shoot for, a North Star. No, goals aren't everything, right? Because like at the start of a 100-meter race, everyone's goal is to win the 100-meter race. And not everyone does. So that obviously can't be the reason why this worked. But they give you something to shoot for and aim at and to dream for, right? But that goal and have something to aim for and just work towards that incrementally. And if you can't make the goal, maybe you miss, that's fine. Take a step back and go 1 step below that goal or 2 steps below that goal. What's the thing? Well, work on the balance board. I bought a balance board to build up my core strength and balance perceptions before skiing, because that's quite big for that. But ratchet it up, man. Ratchet it up before you got yourself in a position where you can be successful. And goals help me navigate this. I had this one more story about goals. It's in the wheelchair, just learning how to walk, and I was trying to get myself back for a home visit after the hospital for 5 months. The only thing that stood in my way were the stairs to get back to my flat in Hammersmith. Mom goes, oh, there must be 100. There was actually 44 steps, Mark. 44 steps stood between me and a chance of a weekend away, a weekend out of that dreary hospital. 44 steps didn't sound like much, but keep in mind I was fresh out of a wheelchair. It seemed like a rather tall order. Began training the steps in the hospital, building way up to 44. 44 was all I needed to get back to the house, to get out of the hospital for a weekend. And I made it up those 44 steps because that's what it was, not 100. It was 44 steps, man. And I made myself the best BLT sandwich I've had in my life back at the flat because I made my way up those stairs, man. And it was one of the best memories I had because I was down 100 stairs, it was 44. What's the actual goal you're aiming for? What do you actually need to do to accomplish this? Not 100, it's 44. How do you want to ski? Skiing's a big audacious goal. Well, start with the balance board, start with the stretching in the gym, dynamic stretching. Build your core strength with squats and deadlifts. Like, ratchet this up, man.
Yeah.
And before you can hit your goals. But don't make the goals so audacious you can't hit them, but ratchet them up to the point where like the next step is I'm gonna go skiing. And damn it, I went skiing. It was pretty damn good.
Having a big vision, but then having small attainable goals that are bite-sized that you can accomplish. You feel good when you do them. You keep the momentum going, and sooner or later you have achieved your vision. Love it. Let's talk about things in a little bit of a different vein. And a lot of this is from my personal experience and working with some entrepreneurs and those who are trying to do difficult things. Obviously, what you have achieved and what you are still achieving on a daily basis surpasses anything that I have ever done. But I have had my fair share of trying hard things, and I consider myself a fairly motivated guy. I consider myself a fairly disciplined guy. I consider myself a fairly educated guy. There are times when the motivation runs out. There are times when the strength wears out. There are times when it's in the middle of the night and I'm by myself laying there, the dark thoughts come in. Am I good enough? Am I going to be able to make it? Am I just fooling myself? Imposter syndrome. Did you ever have thoughts like that? And if you did, how did you work your way around it? Because I would assume the harder the objective, the darker the thoughts.
Those are very valid feelings, and I've had those for sure. They're for a season. They last for a few days and they go away. What am I doing? This is audacious. This is ridiculous. Anything you can ski, this is insane. But let it play out. Let your mind spin. And then, well, maybe we did this. I could make it through this way, and then I could do this, and then that, and then I'm skiing. Don't just be impulsive and reject it. Let it breathe. Give it some oxygen. Validate it, because they're scary thoughts, and they've got some valid points behind them. But they don't know you. They don't know what I'm capable of. Give it a few days. Give it a week, and let's see if it's still there. And just meditate on it, and just breathe, and it eventually lines up.
But how do you not get sucked into it? Because I agree with you that there is a way to let it breathe and let it play itself out, and perhaps even consider the worst case scenario. And you're like, okay, this is the absolute worst case scenario. Anything that happens between here and the worst case scenario, it's not as bad. But some of us have a tendency to really let it spiral, and it really sinks us in, like in a black hole, almost in a whirlpool. What are some things we can do to do a pattern interrupt, to not let us get dragged down into the depths of hell of our dark thoughts?
I call this the pity spiral, where you're like, woe is me, this isn't fair, why'd this happen to me? And hey, I got down that pity spiral pretty far down. I never went fully dark. I was never fully woe is me about this. So I can't speak to how to get out if you're at the bottom of that pit. I can't do it because I wasn't there. It wouldn't be authentic of me to say that. But I just know that there's some good that will happen from some bad stuff. You ever heard the video Jock Willing did called Good? You heard that, Mark?
I know about Jock, but I didn't know the video. No.
So essentially, it just goes, it's a video called Good. I would recommend all your listeners to check it out on YouTube, called Good Jock Willink, and it's a phenomenal video. And he talks about like all these bad things that happen, and he goes, good, I can then do this. Good, I can now do this. I went to a cafe in Shepherd's Bush a couple years ago when I was living in Shepherd's Bush in London. Had my headphones on, tried to have them for this call today, but couldn't find a mark. Apologies for that. My phone, second I left the house, the headphones go, power off, low battery. And I went, good. I'm close by the house, I can charge the headphones before I go back to the cafe. Had I been at the cafe, headphones would be dead and I'd be headphones for the whole time. But that instant reframe of good, there'll be some good that happens from bad stuff, right? If you can ingrain that in your vibe and your mind, like, you're unstoppable. I can't speak to if you're down the pity spiral fully because I was never down that, Mark, but don't allow yourself to slide down that rail. There'll be some good that comes from the situation, right? This brain hemorrhage, devastating. On paper, dead to rights. I should have been dead a few times. Like all my had my 9 lives for sure. I've used up 7 of them. So this is dark, this is dreary, this is bleak, this is impossible. But there's some solace and some good that comes from it. At least I can talk. I had a second setback, Mark. I'll tell you about that in just a second. After a year of building myself back up, walking, vocational rehab, speech and language therapy, physical therapy, I built myself back up in 2.5 days a week at work, 2 days a week at work at Hootsuite. Shout out to Hootsuite. They were phenomenal through this whole process. Thank you, Hootsuite, so much. 3.5 days a week. And I knew I wanted the 2 before I went to work and she'd go off on a walk. One day didn't show up, Mark. She calls my flat, no response. My flat about 5 minutes from the from the Goldhawk Road tube station. She finds me unconscious on the floor. I'm rushed to the hospital for emergency brain surgery. The shunt that's in my brain had blocked, leading to hydrocephalus or water on the brain. I wake up the next day, hear the beeping noise of the heart monitor going up behind me. Beep. What happened? What happened? Then I need a second brain surgery. What do you mean? We got the blockage, we had a second brain surgery. All my progress was washed away. I've been working for a year to get back to work, to put this behind me, to leave this behind me and take the step forward in my life. And this thing dragged me back down. I was devastated. All that work was washed away in an instant. All that progress, all that positive vibe were gone. I described my recovery like a W, Mark. So the first setback's down here, climb back up about halfway. Second setback's not where the first one was, much lower. The depths of the human experience, rock bottom or bedrock. I can build up from here. I know how to rehab better. This didn't happen overnight. I was down the pity spiral for a good month and a half. But slowly but surely I realized, you know what? I can rehab better. I know how to do this. I lost the gains from rehab, but I know how to do the gains again. I know how to build back better and rehab better. So slowly I got to work and started taking small steps to improve my lot and get back to there. I wasn't entitled to go back to in-person rehab because I'd already done that in the files. I'd already tapped that vein. Mom had to fight tooth and nail to get me back on some periphery rehab. We could call in and have some chats with them. I started in the gym, started to build myself back up, and one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. This was devastating, Mark. The brink of the human experience. We were like death just laughing at me like, you thought you were getting out of here, bud? You're going nowhere. I talk about recovery now in like joking terms because this thing tried to get me twice. It tried to claim me twice and I laugh in its face now. You think you're better than me? Hell no, brother. But this was devastating. This flattened me and stretched me to my absolute breaking capacity. Why are you trying so hard, Dan? You can't even get back up. This is not letting you, it's not releasing you. It's not letting you go. You can't escape this. This is for life. But slowly but surely, my mind started to shift and tilt and turn. And I realized that I could take steps to improve my lot. I could rehab faster and better. And I took one step at a time, day by day, inch by inch, row by row. Gym, swim, ramp myself back up. I mentioned swimming. It's a big part of my rehab vibe now because it's low impact way. I used to give talks for my old rehab center, Wolfson Rehab Center in Roehampton and Tooting Broadway. They've relocated now to Roehampton Maybe this talk for them and talk about swimming and how important that was for me. I had one comment from a listener saying, you know what, Dan, I was a big swimmer before the brain injury, but after the brain injury, I stopped because it was so difficult and strenuous to do, but I just stopped doing it because it was so frustrating. After hearing me speak, he goes, I'm going to start swimming again. That was probably the single best comment I ever heard from my talk because I've changed his mindset. I'm going to try again. I would say try this most important bit. You can control your effort. You can control your grind. You can control your fight. If you stop trying, hey man, I'm sorry to hear that. If you keep trying, it's going to break. It's going to improve. It's going to go. I'm not going to not be successful because I didn't work hard enough. It's because I wasn't good enough. But I'm always going to try. And you got to have that fight inside you to try. If you give up and say, hands up, fine, you got me, man. Look, I want to do that a few times. Like, second setback, dude, I was dead to rights. Again, you had to be kidding me. Give it some time to breathe. Let it breathe. I know how to rehab better. I can take the next step better. I can build myself back up better. I had eye surgery last year, about this time last year. I had 2 surgeries on the right eye, 1 on the left eye. Trying to correct the delusion that I've got from brain injury, right? It's quite debilitating, quite strenuous. 2 videos play in my mind like this. One's on a tilt and one throbs now. It's devastating. My dad goes after the last surgery, it has changed. It was getting better, and the last surgery buggered everything up. My dad goes, do you regret having the eye surgery down? I go, yeah, absolutely. It's changed everything. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, you know what? I was taking the next step. I was trying to improve my law. There's a story called The Fox, the Boy, the Horse, and the Mole. The author's name now, but it's quite a well-known story. And a boy's walking through a thick wood. He yells back at the horse. He goes, I can't see a way through. And the horse says, can you see your next step? The boy says, yeah. The horse says, well, then just take that. The eye surgery was even taking the next step, and it backfired. But I'm always going to chase that next step because that's how you improve your law. That's how you chase life. I'm not going to settle for life. I'm going to chase life I want to have. I'm not going to settle for anything. Chase it, man. You can't lose that fight. You can't say, oh, I guess I'm just going to throw up here. This is where I'm at. Fight again and again. It's exhausting. It's tiring. It seems impossible at times. But if you stop fighting, you're letting it win for you. I was never going to let this beat me on its terms. I was going to fail because I wasn't good enough to do it. But I wasn't going to ever give up on this. And that's an exhausting mindset to have. But I don't have much of a choice. I've got to fight this every day like this because this is how I got back from that today. And I continue to fight the fight every day. But the next step is we have to chase. The next step is we have to pursue. The next step is we have to die on that hill for. Now we're talking with some eye doctors now about a neuro-ophthalmologist, so a brain and eye doctor. Guess how much school did I do? A million years. I figure out why it's changed the eyesight so much. They don't know, which is always wicked to know because that's sweet. I'm the test case. That's great. But I'm going to chase this down because I don't want to settle for this eyesight that I've got now. I want to try and correct the illusion if I can. Probably won't be able to fix it. I've had 3 surgeries on the eyes and it hasn't worked. But hey, I'm going to at least try and improve it a little bit. I'm chasing this down. I turned my head a lot to the left now, you'll notice. It's an inbuilt twitch because I don't trust the left eye. Even though I'm wearing the eye patch, I still turn my head to the left. So through the right eye. But I was taking the next step, Mark. And that's what you got to fight for.
Yeah, I think this is where the biggest lesson lies. There's so many golden nuggets that you have given to us on this podcast, but the absolute biggest lesson here is that while we may not know the next logical tactical step, let's not obsess over figuring out the long-term plan. What really matters is the person within us that wants to fight and is not going to give up. Now, as long as we have the power and the resilience and the ability to put up a fight, to take the pain, and we just take that small step forward, your success is inevitable. The desire to fight that keeps us going, and that just cannot be taught. That has something that comes from within. So whatever our life circumstances are whether we hate our job or we're in a bad relationship or we're suffering some type of devastating loss, at the end of the day, it is the fight within us that keeps us going. So let's not obsess over the long-term vision or the greatest plan that will solve all our problems. Let's summon that energy within us to bring that fight to the ground, and let's just take the next step forward.
The next step, Mark. The next step is everything.
Next step is everything.
Everything. The next step is just can you take the next step? Yeah, then take it.
Yeah.
And the perspective changed from that step because you're through the trees now. You can see the way through. Before it was like a wall of trees, you couldn't make it through, but now you can take the next step.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it's easy because it's not, but it's calcified in my mind. That's the next step, man. Everything is the next step. Like, I'm not there yet. Cool, I'll try again. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. Like, I'm not going to be denied by not trying. Can be good enough, sure, but I'm not going to fail for lack of effort. Fall down 7, get up 8. And that's calcified in my mind. It's just coming with now that I can't overcome. That sounds super arrogant and cocky, but I believe that with my heart. I'll just pivot and adapt. I'll pivot and adapt. I'll take the next step. Doesn't matter how low down I get, I'll take the next step and go up this angle or go around. But the next step is key, Mark.
How you do anything is how you do everything. So when you have built yourself up to be able to be a fighter and you've overcome some obstacles in your life, as insurmountable as they may be, you're no longer afraid of another obstacle that comes your way. Pain of the past, the mistakes that we have made in the past will always haunt us. The uncertainty of the future will always scare us. But I guess the biggest lesson that Dan has given here today is that without worrying about the mistakes and the pain of the past and the uncertainty of the future, focus on the next step. Focus on what is at hand. Dan, it's been a pleasure. I literally have goosebumps from talking to you. And I know the listeners that are listening to this today will definitely, and listen to this podcast, take away something valuable and hopefully apply it very instantly in their life. Thank you so much for being on this show.